Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mooney and I want to thank you for joining me today. So this video is going to be something a little bit different. With Halloween coming up here at the end of the week, I want to do a countdown. I want to do a horror movie countdown. So this is going to be a completely weird one. I've never seen anybody else do this countdown. I think it's going to be a blast. This is the top 15 best of the worst videos for each franchise. So what do I mean by that, right? Well, I took 15 franchises, I took the ones that I have seen from it, and I ranked the worst installment from each one, from worst to best. So, you know, the movie that I think is the worst in each franchise, I took those, made a list of them, and then I ranked those from the very worst one to the very best one. So that's what this countdown is. The rules for it were simple. Had to have at least 4 entries into each franchise, so I couldn't pick up something that just had 1 or 2. And I can only rank the ones that I've seen. So like Silent Night, Deadly Night is on this list. I've seen the first 4. Sleepaway Camp is on this list. I've only seen the first 3. I know that there's other ones in there, 1.5 finished, Return to, I haven't seen any of those, so it's just the worst one, in my opinion, from the first 3 movies on that one. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do. This is going to be fun. It's a Halloween thing. So, yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into number 15. Okay, so number 15 on my list is the Psycho remake. This movie really should have been good. If you really think about it, you've got a good story. Yeah, everybody by now knows the twist ending. It was shot in 1960, so that's 60 years ago now. So, you know, everybody knows the twist. But really and truly, you've got a good story. You've got really good actors in it. There's not a bad actor out of the leads. Anne Heche is not bad. Vince Vaughn's a good actor. William H. Macy's a great actor. Viggo Mortensen's a good actor. All of them should have been good, but they weren't. The director just come off of Good Will Hunting. That's a good movie. You would think. No. This movie is horrible. They updated things they shouldn't have updated. The peephole scene, if you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about with the peephole scene. That just absolutely destroys the character of Norman Bates. Norman Bates has kind of got a childlike innocence to the Norman aspect of his multiple personalities. The Norman aspect has got a childlike quality to him, an innocence to him. That scene just absolutely destroys him. Vince Vaughn didn't really do it in this one. He's also, there's the scenes where he's in the mama persona. Spoiler, right? Like you haven't seen that. But anyway, when he's in that one, he's broad-shouldered and thick. Anthony Perkins was thin and tall and could pass for a woman to a degree. Plus updating it from black and white to color, well, now you've got to shade the face, and they don't do a very good job with that. The falling scene didn't really work in 1960, and it sure as hell didn't work when this was done. You know, it just didn't work there. When Mama kills the detective and he falls backwards down the steps, it was kind of an idea in the original, and it just didn't. You know, it was just. Oh, they screwed this one up. So that's my number 15. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, so number 14 on my list is Halloween 3. For me, personally, and I know all of you guys are already typing shit in, but for me, personally, Halloween 3 is by far the worst of the series. I do not enjoy this movie at all. Now, I know the consensus when somebody says they don't like it is that people type it in, and I can already hear you typing, like I said. But I know that Carpenter wanted it to go into a different direction. He wanted an anthology series. Just because he wanted an anthology series doesn't make this a good entry in it. Next thing you're going to tell me is that I only hate it because Michael Myers is in it. Well, when I saw this movie, it had just come out on video. I didn't know who Michael Myers was because I was just at that point getting into horror. I knew who Jason was. Freddy had just come out thereabouts in the same time, and other things, but I hadn't seen Michael Myers yet. I didn't know who he was. I had heard from friends who were into horror that the Halloween series was the best franchise there was. The Halloween was so much better than the other movies out there. Nothing could touch it. And this is the first one that I saw. And I was severely disappointed. It doesn't know if it wants to be sci-fi. It doesn't know if it wants to be mystical. It doesn't know if it wants to be horror. It doesn't know if it wants to be comedy. The only good scene in it, as far as scenes go, is where they test the mask. That was cool. Everything else in this movie is absolute crap. Tom Atkins is a great actor. There are many scenes where he saves elements of it, and I can watch him, but as far as the rest of it goes, the movie is absolute shit to me. Again, these are all my opinions. Go ahead and type in your comments now. I'm cool with that. Let's move on. Alright, so the next one on my list here is going to be number 13, and that is Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3. Oh boy. Okay, so the first Silent Night, Deadly Night was not exactly a great movie, but it's watchable. It's an average 80s slasher. Part 2, well, Part 2 went the horror comedy, or comedy horror comedy route, and it's got some scenes in it that are fun. It was interesting to see the brother taking over the role, not some strange resurrection of the killer from the first one. So the second one is watchable in a dumb way, kind of so bad it's good. And then you get Part 3. What? His head's in a bowl. It's bland. It's boring. The kills in it aren't good. I'm not really a fan of Mosley anyway. Yeah, y'all go ahead and type in again now. Here comes more comments from the keyboard warriors. I'm not a fan. I don't really like him. I haven't really seen him in anything that I have really enjoyed him in. It's a silent killer with a bowl on his head. It's just bad. It's not a good movie. It's not so bad it's good. It's just shit. Really, there's not a whole lot you can say about this one. There's very little memorable elements to it, except for his head's in a bowl. Yeah. Well, the top of, if you haven't seen it, the top of his head was cut off because he was shot in the head at the end of the second one, and they've now got a plastic skull with the. Yeah, it's Roger Corman level of bad without the fun. So let's move on. Alright, so number 12 on the countdown is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, Freddys Dead. This is a shit show from beginning to end. The opening sequence, Freddy rides through on the broom quoting Margaret Hamilton from Wizard of Oz. Really? It's an absolute shit show. The kill with the Nintendo Power Glove. The Nintendo was great. The NES was an awesome system, especially for its day. But the Power Glove was shit. And so is this movie. The only thing that saves this movie are the flashback sequences. All of those are really good, especially the one with Alice Cooper. You know, I really like Alice Cooper anyway, but I think he did a really good job with that. Robert Englund did a good job in the flashback sequences with the little girl, all of that stuff. That's great. If you cut that out, you'd have like a 15-minute short. You know, that would be really good. And that would probably rate somewhere in my top 3 or 4 movies for a 15-minute short. This one, on the other hand, everything about this movie is absolute crap. There are a couple of decent Freddy one-liners, but the flashback sequences are really the only good thing other than that. So, yeah. Moving on. Alright, so number 11 on our list is Prom Night Part 3, The Last Kiss. Prom Night 1 is slow. It's pretty low budget, but not horrible. It's a good movie. It's revered as a classic. It has Jamie Lee Curtis in it, but it is a bit of a slow burner. Prom Night Part 2, they try to do something completely different. So Prom Night Part 2, Hello Mary Lou, is a ghost story. The only connection to Prom Night 1 is the fact that they both take place at a prom. Prom Night 3, they went with the comedy route, and the jokes don't land. It's bad. The production quality, the budget is even more low. It's not even a made-for-TV. It's like a B movie, a made-for-TV B movie. It's not even it's one of those off networks. It's not even a major network made for TV. It is horrible. The acting in it is atrocious. The production values are so bad. The camera work is laughable at best. It just doesn't work. Yeah, so let's move on to the next one. So, now we're hitting the top 10. So these are the best of the worst. And number 10 is Phantasm 5 Ravager. Again, we're stuck with bargain basement production values. The acting in it's not bad from the people who've been around. Angus Scrimm, Reggie, these people have been doing this for a long time. The director's been doing this. This is a passion project. And what the hell was... It feels like several movies were started and then just jammed into one. Is it real? Is it a psychotic break? Is it fantasy? Is it... All of that really doesn't lend itself to a cohesive story in this one. It's awesome to see all of everybody back. Angus Scrimm as the tall man is an icon. The killer balls are an icon. Reggie has become an icon. Him and his skullet. But as far as the movie goes, it's a mess at best. So, for nostalgia's sake and for the iconic imagery in it, it's number 10, but really and truly the bottom ones here are all interchangeable almost. They're really bad. Alright, so moving on, number 9 on our countdown is Sleepaway Camp 3. Sleepaway Camp 1 is epic. It's the first, well, all of it up until the very end is a it's a Friday the 13th ripoff. It's really hard not to. It's a camp horror. It plays heavily on the Friday the 13th tropes, and then you get that reveal at the end that made this movie the cult classic that it is, the icon that it is. Then you get part 2. Well, they changed out Angela's. Pamela Springsteen doesn't do a bad job in part 2. She's very charming in some ways, and the kills are very creative. There's so much fun to have. The fact that all the characters are named after members of the Brat Pack, poking fun at the 80s. The comedy in part 2 lands, but part 3, 3 small vignettes in a way, each of the different groups she goes to. She doesn't have any charm. She's just bland. It was shot back to back with the second one. The second one's good. What the hell? Now, I haven't seen the others. I know that there's other parts to it. The Return to Sleepaway Camp and everything else they've done. I haven't seen those, but I haven't heard good things about them. But 3, for me, is the worst of the first 3 that I've seen. They took it away from the camp proper and put it out into the woods, but it didn't help. The actors in it are horrible. The production values aren't bad. The camera work's not bad. Again, Pamela Springsteen's not bad. She's just not good in this one. This It was filmed back to back with the second one, and it feels like they were tired. It really feels like they just spent all their money on the second one, all their effort on the second one, and the third one was rushed out. The kills in it aren't all that spectacular. The storyline's just a rehash. The comedy doesn't land. It's not good. Moving on. Alright, so number 8 on my list is Final Destination 4, or Final Destination 3D, or The Final Destination. When they do shit like that with the title, you know it's just not going to be there. The effects in this movie are one of the main things that drag it down. The effects in it look so cartoony. The sound effects in it actually, in several places, just feel like they were just pulled straight out of an old Looney Tunes. Boom, kind of thing. It's, I mean, the whole Final Destination thing is a collection of Rube Goldbergs in order to kill some people in imaginative ways, blood, guts, and gore. And yeah, this one just doesn't live up to what it's done before. The characters are uninteresting. The NASCAR thing at the beginning of it, that kind of thing has happened in the past. There have been accidents where tires have gone over the restraining walls and people have been hurt and killed. So the beginning of it's not unbelievable to a degree. And granted, this of course is not, top layer NASCAR. This is, Uncle Joe's local track down the street here. And a lot of those small racetracks like that, yeah, the maintenance isn't as good as a brand new track, or as good as the NASCAR series would be, that you can watch on TV. But I mean, there is still a level of maintenance that they have to maintain. So it's plausible but not probable happening. And then you just kind of get dumb excuses for dumb ways to die, unlikable characters, piss poor acting, and the CGI in it and the 3D effects are so overly cartoonish CGI. It's the least of the series. So let's move on to number 7 and let's see what that is. Alright, so number 7 on our list is Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Jason takes a boat ride to Toronto. The Friday the 13th is probably my overall favorite franchise, and this is just sad. I was so disappointed when I saw this originally, and my feelings for it haven't changed over the years. The slimy Jason, not a good look. The characters are bland, one-dimensional. Even for a Friday the 13th movie, the characters are one-dimensional and bland. There's no one that you can root for. The final girl's not all that interesting. The secondary villain, her uncle, is just annoying. You really hate him, you really root for him to get killed, and that is the only real positive in this movie. There are a couple of quick scenes that are pretty positive. The scene where Jason walks down the street of Manhattan, kicks the boombox, and the gang members, or whatever you want to say, the ruffians, threaten him, and he turns around and just raises the mask up. How he got the mask back just so happened that he was brought back by electricity under the water, and he got on a boat, and they had a mask like his. Come on, you could have put him in a different mask. It wouldn't have been the iconic Jason, but it would have been an interesting twist, right? No. He spends 90% of the time on the boat, and then, yeah, granted, the endings in most of them are kind of a throwaway when it comes to Friday the 13th, but the toxic waste turns him into a child. The dissolve effect was pretty cool, though. The dissolve effect was pretty cool. So yeah, that was Friday the 13th, Part 8. I know a lot of people really like the boxing scene where he knocks the guy's head off. I thought that was dumb. Even originally, I thought it was dumb. I don't think it's funny. I think it was kind of predictable. He was either going to punch a hole through him, which he'd already done, so they probably weren't going to do that, or he was going to knock the guy's head off. I saw it the second it started. So I didn't like that either. But anyway, like I said, that's Friday the 13th Part 8. Let's move on. And number 6 on our list is Saw 3D. The Saw series started off so good. The first 3 are really good. From there on, it just got more convoluted and more, you needed a slide rule to figure out the storyline, flipping back on itself on the timeline, and just become further and further down a rabbit hole that they were trying to dig themselves out of. Then you get to Part 6. They let it be known ahead of time that Carrie Elways was coming back. Well, there was only one of 2 ways that could go. If Carrie Elways was coming back as the same character, he was either going to be a disciple or he was going to be fighting him. Because he wasn't the star of the movie, he wasn't someone who was going through all of this, it was the writer. You knew he wasn't going to be fighting him. You knew he wasn't going to come switching in at the end of the day to save the day for the victims. And then you get the CGI. You get that laughable scene at the beginning of it. The CGI is absolute horrible because it's a 3D and everything has to come at the camera. That irks me in most movies. I could deal with it in a few because I like them, but that irks me to no end in this one especially. Huge scene at the beginning of it in an open area that's obviously pretty busy, and he's built a big glass cage. How the hell did you get that in there that quick? It's not going to happen. Plausibility of this one is so far in the toilet. The only thing that makes it interesting is if you're a fan of the series, the creative kills, the kills themselves are always good in a Saw movie. So you got plenty of gore to go around. But yeah, I mean, it's a laughable plot. You knew what was going to happen. You knew who was going to be tested. You knew why he was going to be tested. The fact that he failed to save his wife at the end of it, and then that CGI furnace that comes up, come on. Horrible. So, yeah, that's that one. Let's move on. Alright, folks, so number 5. We're getting into the top 5. These are the very best of the worst. And number 5 for me is Jaws 4, Jaws the Revenge, whatever you want to call it. The shark goes from Manhattan to the Bahamas to chase down the last surviving members of the Brody family. Really? Really? Okay, sharks don't think that way. Everybody knows it. Everybody knew it then. The acting in it is bad. There are some so good it's bad moments in it, and that's usually provided by Mario Van Peebles and his random accent that's supposed to be an Islander accent, and it slips here and it slips there, and it goes, really high up in vocal pitch at times for no reason. If you watch it just for that, there is some so bad it's good moments. That's the reason it's this high on it. There's not a lot of carnage in it. There's not a lot of that. The sharks give an intelligence that can never be explained rationally. Not that I always look for reason in a horror movie, but this goes beyond that point. Michael Caine, who only did the movie so he could finish his house, and actually said in an interview a couple of years ago that he's still never seen the movie. Michael Caine is great because he's Michael Caine. So, it's fun, it's brainless, it's not good, but it's not quite that so bad it's good, it's just really an effortless production that you can pop in and munch popcorn and make fun of it with. It's really an MST3K. If you don't know what Mystery Science Theater 3000 was, it's really one of those movies because you can really sit there and just pick at this movie, and it's so much fun to watch drunk with friends who are smart alecks, and that's the reason it's number 5 on my list, and that's Jaws 4. Alright, so number 4 on the list is Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 4. Sometimes known as Texas Chainsaw Massacre The Next Generation, sometimes known as The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie is absolutely the epitome of so bad it's good. This movie is batshit insane. The characters in it are atrocious. The acting in it is so over the top from Matthew McConaughey that it is insane, and it is hysterical to watch. I enjoyed this movie because of that. It is the worst in the franchise. I go back and forth between whether 2 and 4 are the worst. I don't really like either one of them that much as a movie. But this one... This one is so bad. This one is ironically good, but not in a good way. which is like this movie makes no sense. And honestly, this one would be above 2 for me if it wasn't for the whole Illuminati thing at the end of it. That really, really just jumped the shark and then jumped it again. Naked. It was just stupid beyond the level of anything. The remote control robotic leg, okay, I can give you that. That's funny. Another issue that I have with it, big issue that I have with it, are the Leatherface masks. Everybody wants to come down on this one for Leatherface doing the drag thing. Well, he wore a woman mask in the first one. A lot of people forget about that or don't realize that. But this one, the mask looks like somebody took... It looks like one of those parody memes you see on Facebook where somebody took a tortilla and cut out eyes and a mouth in it. It looks like that. The butcher mask, quote unquote, that he wears at the beginning of it looks like somebody took a football and deflated it and cut out eyes and a mouth. It doesn't have any realism at all. And to the point that it's not funny, it takes you out of it. The masks are so atrocious. You could have picked up shit at the dollar store and it would have looked better. It really is. The Illuminati and the bad masks, those are the things that pull this one all the way to the bottom for me on that franchise. But everything else in between, all the over the top acting, Renee Zellweger, Matthew McConaughey in this, that's what puts it up this high on my countdown. So let's move on. Alright, so number 3 on the list is Scream 3. Now, Scream 3 is not a bad movie. It gets a lot of hate, but it's not a bad movie. And in fact, actually, it's a pretty damn good slasher film. What it's not is a good Scream film. Excuse me. They set the bar so high with the first one. They came in pretty damn good with the second one. They redeemed themselves for the most part with the fourth one. There's some things about it I'm not crazy about, but Scream 3 is a good movie, really. It's just not when you compare it to the other 3 in the Scream franchise. The beginning of it, they let one of the voice changer thing, they should have saved that. That should not have been the beginning of it. All the exposition, all of the stuff involving Sydney's mother, we never met her. She died a year before the first movie takes place. You don't really care about her that much. The only reason that you do care about it at all is because you've spent all this time getting invested in the character of Sydney, and you care about Sydney. The reveal at the end is cheap. It's dumb. It's predictable. They tried to throw you off with some red herrings, but none of them really feel right. Plus, this movie has Parker Posey in it, and any movie that she's in is not a good movie. She's never done anything that I have liked her in. There have been some movies that she's been in that have been good movies. Dazed and Confused, a couple other things. But she's not a good actress. She's annoying as hell. Yeah, so Scream 3, it's a good movie. It's a really good slasher. It's just a bad Scream movie, but it is number 3 on my list. So let's move on. Okay, so number 2 on my list is Tremors 4. I love the Tremors series. I love all of them. I have seen the new one that just came out earlier this month. The Shrieker Island, it was called. Okay, it's not great, but it was fun. The whole Tremors series is fun. That's the thing about it. It's an old school monster movie. Part 4, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad. It's kind of fun to go back and look at the character, to look at different takes on these characters. If you don't know, Part 4 is The Legend Begins. It takes place in the Old West. It was a nice way to continue the series to a degree. But it's just seeing the character of Gummer go from being the Eastern tenderfoot who rides out on his bicycle to becoming the forefather of the Bert that we know. Yeah, it's just, and the Billy Drago's character on it is such a parody that of everything that he's ever done. It's by far the weakest in the series, but again, it's a popcorn flick. It's mindless fun. It's a monster movie. It's a Tremors. Setting it on the Old West where you don't have all of the heavy artillery, kind of ups the ante on, on the threat level. At least the CGI is not as bad as what it is with the ass blasters, but it kind of felt like they were running out of ideas. Right around this time was when they had done the short-lived TV series, and it feels almost like they were just trying to keep the rights to the property, almost. So, I love this movie. I enjoy this movie. It's the worst in the Tremors franchise, but it is number 2 on this list. So, let's see what number 1 is. So, number 1 on my list is The Evil Dead from 1980. The original Evil Dead. Yeah, I know. I just pissed off a bunch of people. This is by far the best on this list. But to me, it's the worst in the series. I like the remake. I love Part 2. I love Part 3. I love Ash vs. the Evil Dead. The original one, not as much. The claymation used for it, and I understand the budget. I love the camera work that's in this movie. Sam Raimi directed this movie, and it's such a low budget, but it feels it, but it also kind of pulls a Roger Corman and revels in it. The Ash character is Ashley, not Ash. He doesn't really become the Ash that we all know and love until the second one. A lot of people forget about that. A lot of people think, well, it was that way from the beginning, and it's not. The first one is good for what it is, but it's just not great. The effects in it are made down to a budget, and I can forgive that because I do like this movie. As it's number 1 on my list. I do enjoy this movie. I just don't think that it's the best in the franchise, but I do think it's the best on this list. So that was my top 15, guys. Go ahead and down in the comments if you watch this and give me your list and tell me what you think of my list. And you can swap out the franchises if you want to. If you want to put in something else put in something else. But let me know what you think. Advocacy links, my personal links, all of that are in the description as always. And yeah, happy Halloween. Y'all have a good one.